This episode is provided by Thomas Allgaier and Frenis, based on the most relevant LinkedIn posts about MarTech from calendar weeks 8 and 9. Frenis is a B2B market research company helping enterprises gain the market, customer, and competitive insights needed to drive growth and success.
And a huge welcome to you, the listener, for joining us on this deep dive. Today, we are unpacking the top MarTech trends that have been buzzing across LinkedIn over these past 2 weeks.
Yeah, and if you are navigating the B2B marketing space right now, you know exactly how noisy the timeline can get.
Oh, absolutely. It is so loud.
Right. So our mission today is to cut right through that noise and extract the actual signal. Looking at the curation of posts from these past couple of weeks, there's a very distinct overarching shift in the conversation.
A massive shift. It seems like the era of solving your marketing problems just by swiping a credit card for a new sauce tool that is officially over.
It really is. The conversation has completely pivoted from buying more tools to execution discipline.
Right, because over and over in the sources, the takeaway is crystal clear. AI and all these, sophisticated automation tools, they only create actual value when your data quality and your operating cadences are already locked in.
Which means we need to set a fast, smart, and highly focused pace for this conversation. No fluff today.
No fluff at all.
We're looking at the highest signal insights from the practitioners who are actually in the trenches doing this work. So let's start where everything has to start. Data foundations.
Right, before you optimize, you have to sanitize.
Exactly. We simply cannot talk about the capabilities of agentic AI without talking about the data it actually runs on. Right now, the focus is firmly on lean databases and ruthless CRM hygiene.
And to illustrate why that's taking center stage right now, let's look at an insight shared by Andrew Goldstein. He bluntly compares CRM hygiene to brushing your teeth.
Which is such a grounded analogy.
It really is. He points out that nobody posts on social media about brushing their teeth, and nobody wins industry awards for it.
But if you skip it long enough, absolutely everyone notices.
Exactly. And unlike a cavity, bad data silently infects the entire revenue engine. Goldstein urges marketers to quite literally go check their own spam folders.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He notes that having big budgets and a highly sophisticated stack means absolutely nothing if you are ignoring basic deliverability metrics.
And he specifically mentions throttle rates. Right.
Yes, throttle rates. If your data is dirty and your throttle rates are ignored, your server gets penalized by inbox providers. You can have the most beautifully crafted campaign in the world, but if Gmail routes it to the spam folder, the strategy is completely useless.
You cannot optimize an experience that the customer never even received.
Exactly.
And speaking of the customer experience, Anna Marone brought up a highly relevant point about the elusive customer 360 view.
The holy grail of marketing data.
Right, the single view of the customer. She noted a staggering statistic. 80% of organizations actively want it, but only 14% actually achieve it.
14% is incredibly low for a concept the industry has been chasing for a decade. Why is the gap still so wide?
She diagnoses the problem by pointing out that organizations get stuck in 3 specific swamps. The first swamp is what she calls the Jenga tower.
Let me guess. A messy stack built by people who left the company 18 months ago.
Nailed it. Someone added a tool here, someone else hard-coded a routing rule there, and now nobody fully understands how the architecture connects.
So touching one block risks collapsing the entire system.
Exactly. The institutional memory evaporates, and the data stays siloed.
What are the other 2 swamps?
The second is the vendor smokescreen. Vendors naturally sell the customer 360 vision to keep you locked in, but often the capability just isn't there out of the box.
Or they charge a premium to pipe your own data out.
Right. And the third swamp, which is probably the most persistent, is funding tactics over capability.
Meaning leadership will fund the shiny object, but not the foundation.
Exactly. An executive will happily approve a 6-figure budget for a front-end personalization tool because it looks great in a board deck, but they cut the budget for the underlying data engineering that makes it accurate.
It's a compounding problem. You end up with this bloated Jenga tower of tools paying for duplicate data. But Sarah McNamara offered a highly practical solution to that exact data bloat problem.
Oh, really? What does she suggest?
She argues that we have to stop mass enriching 10,000 records up front just to burn through a budget.
Because it creates massive database bloat for leads that sales might never even work.
Exactly. Instead, she recommends a targeted approach. Set up a Zapier workflow so reps only spend an enrichment credit using Clay and HubSpot in her example when they actively click to enrich a specific contact.
So a rep opens a contact in HubSpot, clicks a drop-down to enrich, and only then does the system ping Clay to write the fresh data back.
Precisely. You only spend the credit when a human actively signals they need that specific data to do their job.
That is so smart. It shifts the paradigm from hoarding data to pulling data on demand.
And your database stays incredibly lean.
Which ties this whole data foundation theme together perfectly. Francisco Herranz and Sourdeep Pal both stress this exact point. They argue that customer data platforms, CDPs, do not compete with AI.
They make it possible.
Yes, by governing the messy data first. AI requires semantic consistency to function without hallucinating.
Because if you feed an AI inconsistent data from a messy Jenga tower, you don't get better strategies.
You just get messy decisions executed at light speed.
Which is terrifying. And that actually transitions us perfectly into our second theme, stack strategy.
Right.
With the data cleaned up, how are B2B leaders managing the actual tech housing this information?
The consensus seems to be that tech stacks are completely out of control.
They are. Victoria Lennon highlighted a Gartner statistic that should make every marketing leader pause. Only 49% of existing systems are actually used.
More than half of the technology is just shelfware.
Gathering dust.
And Amber W. made an observation that speaks directly to that 49% utilization rate. She pointed out that most teams are drowning in tools rather than swimming in strategy.
That's a great way to put it.
Right. They are trying to patch these fragile Zapier workflows together without even knowing who their buyer is. The tech stack itself is the bottleneck.
And when the tech gets in the way of the strategy, it really becomes a question of purposeful design over just collecting tools. Ben Liddell shared a striking anecdote about this dynamic.
What happened?
A major retailer signed a 4-year commitment to a quote-unquote real-time CDP. 4 months later, 0 use cases are live.
4 months and nothing to show for it.
Nothing. He joked that this should be reported as a crime. He argues that time to value should be the absolute primary buying criterion.
Because if the return on investment is years away, you aren't buying a solution. You're buying a massive implementation project.
Exactly.
And just to add a quick note to that stack strategy discussion, Kenny Van Beek brought up a really interesting point about vendor pricing models.
Like consumption-based pricing.
Yes, like Salesforce's consumption-based models. He noted that these pricing structures are quietly shaping marketing behavior far more than actual strategy decks do.
That makes total sense. If you are billed based on API calls, your operations team will naturally prioritize minimizing those actions to save money.
Regardless of what the marketing strategy dictates, the billing model dictates the behavior.
It's a fascinating constraint. So moving on from the stack itself, let's talk about how we actually use it. This brings us to theme 3. Contextual AI and the rise of vibe coding.
Yes, the AI cluster. AI is clearly moving from being a passive assistant to an active agent. But to do that, it desperately needs context.
Right. And Matthew Kershaw shared a fascinating concept regarding this called vibe coding.
Vibe coding.
Yeah, with tools like Claude Code, non-developers are using natural language prompts to build highly sophisticated custom e-commerce dashboards in a week.
In a single week?
Yes. So he asks the listener, is this the SAW apocalypse? Will we just start building our own tools instead of renting from 10 different vendors?
I mean, it's a valid question. But Tony Ephoff and Benedict Ojalape both push back on this pretty hard.
What's their counter-argument?
They argue that Agentic AI isn't going to destroy marketing software. It's going to use it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, Ojalape cited an analogy that perfectly encapsulates this. A robot doesn't invent a new microwave. It reads the manual and uses the one that's already sitting in the kitchen.
So the MarTech stack is becoming the operating system for your AI workforce.
Exactly. They aren't going to build a massive campaign platform from scratch every time you send an email. They're going to use APIs to log into the platforms you already pay for.
That is such a brilliant observation. And Franz Reimersma supports this perfectly. He points out something totally counterintuitive. If AI can write code so easily now, why is a project management tool like Jira growing so fast?
You would assume Jira would be the first thing replaced by autonomous coding agents.
Right. But the reason it's growing is because AI struggles immensely with context. It doesn't inherently know why something exists or who the specific end user is.
So Jira provides that missing organizational memory.
Yes. Reimersma suggests that context is the new defensive moat. AI executes the prompt, but human systems provide the why.
Let's ground that with a very human reality check from Sabine Vidrick. She shared a story about trying to use AI to build a complex commercial roadmap.
How did that go?
It was completely useless.
Really? Even with all the data.
Even with all the data, all the goals, and all the resource constraints, it was useless because the AI couldn't read the room.
Ah, of course.
It couldn't see the stakeholder eye rolls when a certain legacy project was brought up. Okay. Couldn't understand the unspoken political dependencies between rival teams.
Right. A roadmap is rarely just about the math.
Exactly. Human judgment is still the ultimate differentiator.
Which bridges us perfectly to our final theme, operating model and talent. Changing the rhythm.
Yes.
You can have perfect data, a lean stack, and smart AI, but it all completely fails if your team operates the same old way.
Sarah Parker touched on this with an absolute truth bomb. She stated that marketing transformations don't fail because of bad tech. They fail because nobody changed the weekly rhythm.
The cadence of how humans actually meet and make decisions?
Exactly. If you buy the best real-time software on the market, but you still only review your pipeline quarterly, you lose.
Because your competitors are adjusting their spend weekly.
Right. The cadence must shift to weekly.
And if the cadence needs to be that fast, it puts a massive spotlight on the operations team. Mike Rizzo provided a fantastic definition of a high-performing ops team.
How does he define it?
He says they don't magically work harder, they simply remove decision friction.
Decision friction. I like that. How do they remove it?
By explicitly owning the system truth, so that every single data conflict doesn't turn into a cross-departmental negotiation.
Because we've all been in those meetings where sales pulls one number or marketing pulls another and you just argue about the data.
Exactly. A mature ops team prevents that. When the definitions are indisputable, the friction disappears and the system speeds up.
It builds institutional trust. And John Miller brings this all home with his perspective on the operating model. He argues that the old playbook of lead-centric marketing automation is officially dead.
Which is a huge pivot coming from him. So what is the new model?
He says marketing ops is shifting away from building those manual if-then workflows. If they click this, wait 3 days, send that.
Where the classic decision trees.
Yeah. Instead, the job is now about teaching AI how the business operates, curating playlists of offers that AI dynamically sequences for buyers based on real-time signals.
So instead of hard-coding the path, you give the AI a library of options.
Exactly. The human provides the strategy and context, and the machine handles the orchestration.
If we look at everything we've analyzed today, it's clear the mandate has evolved. B2B marketing is no longer about hoarding apps. It's about governed data, ruthless stack auditing, providing context for AI agents, and speeding up the human operating rhythm to actually match the tech.
If you enjoyed this episode, new episodes drop every 2 weeks. Also check out our other editions on account-based marketing, field marketing, channel marketing, AI and B2B marketing, go-to-market, and social selling. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Be sure to subscribe.
And I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to chew on. As we transition to an era where AI agents execute the campaigns, evaluate your current daily tasks. If a digital employee were assigned your exact workflow tomorrow, would your current documentation and strategic context be enough to guide them? Or, without your personal intuition, would they be flying completely blind? Think about it. Until next time.